crescendo. I'm not going out there where apocalypse roams. Marfoogle news, where are you? Only news I use. Marfoogle news. China vows forceful measures after U.S.-Taiwan meeting. We've been talking about this all week. The meeting, of course, between McCarthy and Tsai Ing-wen, that went over, and there's supposed to be a response after this. Well, it says that they are vowing forceful measures after the meeting. China vowed that reprisals against Taiwan after a meeting between the United States House Speaker and the island's president, saying Thursday that the U.S. was on a wrong and dangerous road. Speaker Kevin McCarthy hosted Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen on Wednesday in a show of U.S. support for the self-ruled island, which China claims as its own, along with the bipartisan delegation of more than a dozen U.S. lawmakers. The Biden administration maintains that there is nothing provocative about the visit by Tsai, which was the latest in half a dozen to the U.S., yet it comes to the U.S.-China relationship has fallen to historic lows, with the U.S. support for Taiwan becoming one of the main points of difference between the two powers. But the formal trappings of the meeting and the senior rank of some elected officials in the delegation from Congress could lead China to view it as an escalation. No speaker is known to have met with Taiwan president on U.S. soil since the U.S. broke off formal diplomatic relations in 1979. So it was a little different from the Pelosi trip, which went there. This was a first since they actually broke this agreement. This is something that obviously is a huge excuse for them to do something wacky. Is it a big enough excuse for them to invade? We'll talk about that today and a whole lot more on today's Marfoogle News. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Outside of my window, seeing a crescendo. I'm not going out there where apocalypse roams. Marfoogle news, where are you? Only you. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. If you've never been here before, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com and find a full bibliography for the entire show today. That is, again, where you can find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document, and it's very easy to find. Just go to marfooglenews.com, look for today's thumbnail, Forceful Measures, and then once you click on that, you will find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document we're going to show you here today. Plus a whole lot more. There is the overflow. That is all the stuff that could not fit in the show or the stuff that would get you in a bar fight if you talked about it at work. Well, if you work at a bar. So we'll talk about all of that at the very end, so stick around. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So as far as the China vows forceful measures after U.S.-Taiwan meeting, this is something that last time that Pelosi actually went to the island, it caused them to do this surrounding action. In fact, the thumbnail is of where they kind of posted up last time when this happened. They did these military drills which surrounded the island. And even though it's 5 kind of boxes, in real life, there were ships surrounding the island. There were amphibious ships, there was militia boats, there was all sorts of stuff there, including industrial and commercial ships. I found that out the other day after mentioning that they would probably line up
even cargo ships to block the way if they ever blockaded the island. They did do that during these drills. They did it in smaller packs, about 5 or 6 ships at a time, but they did it all over, which is pretty crazy to think about. And that was all because and replying to Pelosi's visit. So that was something that they had already done. Now with this newest kind of meeting, which is, it's like all a big circus, they are saying that they're going to do forceful measures. Is this them saying that they are about to invade? One thing to think about is that, everybody basically accepts that at some point they will take Taiwan, whether it be by force or whether it be by infiltration and switching out the government, whatever it may be. Most people believe they will eventually take Taiwan. Would they wait until the U.S. and their competitors and their adversaries have the technology to make their own chips? I don't think so. And would they wait 5 years until their current Navy is now basically out and about instead of serving? If you do a drill like this that is so big and spend millions, if not billions of dollars on live fire drills like this, would you then wait 5 years until you have a completely different Navy to go and do it? Which, again, in 2022, when we first covered kind of all of this stuff, they said 2027. That's what came out. Intelligence said that they were going to invade by 2027. Then they said that they had intelligence that Xi told his people, and it somehow leaked out that he directly told them that we are going to do it in 2027. I don't believe that. And then some said 2025. Now we are in 2023. We're almost halfway through the year. We're getting closer and closer. Dex, what do you think about the whole this? And I did not know that this was the first time that they met on U.S. soil since 1979 in this capacity.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. But the whole notion of forceful measures, we got to see. I have no clue what they're going to do. We're going to talk a little later about one action they're doing now, but I really don't think that's it, because it just seems kind of weak compared to some of the other stuff they've done in the past. So this whole notion of forceful in quotes, it's definitely going to be interesting. I can't imagine it's going to be much less than what they did when Nancy was there. It's probably got to be equivalent to that as far as significance goes, either equivalent if not greater.
And if would he do a smaller action like Dex said? Would he do a less of an action after this? I mean, it's even a bigger move if you look at it the way that they're saying they're looking at it. So this is going to be something that, I guess the main message to everybody else is, we're in the prepper community. People should be looking at this and just saying, hey, even if there's a 1% chance that this could make things pop off, people should have a basic plan together. And that's, again, what we have said for now 5 years, and the world has gotten worse year after year. And it's not trying to be a pessimist. It's just being a realist. Like, look at what is happening right now. The money, if you followed the money this entire 5 years, you've seen this coming. This is all heading this way on purpose. They want things to break down. You cannot have a new system come in without breaking down the old one. And I think that war would accomplish this very, very fast. If you look at our culture even, what's really crazy to me is to think that there are people running around out there having identity issues, having all sorts of issues, not knowing who they are. And it's to think about in 10 years from now, they might find out that all of their issues that they had were actually pushed on them by a cultural push from another country as an attack. Think about that. Like, that's kind of crazy to think about. That all of the cultural stuff that's going on social media is actually being artificially pushed by another country. That's a trip to think about. And then French pension protesters occupy finance firm, torch restaurant favored by Macron. So they went after his favorite cafe. It says a new wave of unrest over a pension reform engulfed Paris and other French cities Thursday, with enraged protesters occupying the building of the U.S.-based investment firm BlackRock. That's a trip. This is actually, I believe, the first time I've ever heard about anything BlackRock being attacked, and setting fire to a popular restaurant favored by President Emmanuel Macron. And funny, I just wonder if these are like close by, like there's the BlackRock office and then a restaurant next door with, outside seating, and I wonder why it's his favorite, right? Just head over from the meeting at BlackRock to the favorite restaurant. Dozens of trade union members streamed into BlackRock's Paris offices in the historical Centurial building, where they set off firecrackers and chanted slogans directed at the company's private pension fund. The government wants to throw away pensions. It wants to force people to fund their own retirement with private pension funds. But what we know is that only the rich will be able to benefit from such a setup, said protester Francois Onick, a school teacher. It says a temporary occupation of BlackRock came on the 11th day of the nationwide strikes and demonstrations decrying Macron's plan to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64 years old in an apparent bid to keep France's pension system from going bust. All over the world, the same thing is happening, by the way. Everywhere pensions are basically at risk right now, or if they're not, experts are saying within the next 5 years they may be. So if you're working your entire life and then halfway through you've already worked 25 years or something like this happens, it is absolutely devastating. Dex, as far as the this is, and it's I think it's more than 11 days though, right? This was actually. Is this covering a few days before? Because they were at 10 days, I don't know, like 5 days ago or something, right? I thought they were already on their 10th day.
The BlackRock thing happened today. So this is current. I don't, as far as the number of days it's been going on, I haven't been keeping count, but I certainly agree with the thought process that the commenter had here, saying that they won't be able to fund their own retirement if they have to do it themselves. A lot of people, I think, the reason why Social Security and the reason why, or one of the reasons why pensions and Social Security and things like that were all created is because people don't actually, save for the future. Most people deal with today. They live paycheck to paycheck. So by having these programs in place, it helps at least ensure some level of economics for people when they get to a point where they can't work anymore. But if that's all being taken away because it gets raided, plundered, and eaten up, like every country seems to be doing, including our own, I think we're going to run out in a few years, something like 7 to 9 years. We're out of funds. It can be disheartening for everybody that has paid in, because you technically are paying in. You're just forced to pay it, as opposed to having the luxury of saying, well, I will set aside my money for retirement, which most people don't do because they'd rather go buy the food they need to put on the table.
Yeah, it's not like you have a choice, right? In most places, it's taken out regardless. And then to find out after 30 years, you could have used that money for whatever, or you could have saved it yourself. And then they go, oh, we're going to change it. That's why people are pissed. And on the 10th day, 11th day, I swear, like 4 or 5 days ago, I covered, and there was like 3 articles that said on the 10th day of protests. So I think this has been going on. I want to say that this one is wrong. Has it been only going on 11 days? Or am I having my own like Mandela effect or something like it? Do you guys remember me covering stories that had the 10th day of protests? Even on my Twitter, I believe I posted something that said the 10th day. And this was like 3 or 4 days ago. So I don't know, just weird. Maybe they consider a different start to the actual protest, or maybe that was in a different part of, I that's weird to me. Anyways, maybe I'm just totally wrong. Rare April subtropical storm may brew in the Gulf of Mexico next week. Water temperatures will play a factor in the potential storm's development, AccuWeather forecasters say. However, regardless of the storm's strength, area of heavy rain are expected for a large portion of the south next week. AccuWeather's Dan Kotlowski reflects on the impacts of last year's hurricane season and gives the current outlook on this year's upcoming hurricane season. AccuWeather meteorologists will be closely monitoring the Gulf of Mexico in the coming days, as there is a concern that a tropical or subtropical system may brew prior to moving onshore in the southern United States next week. It is general that a rare occurrence for tropical depressions or storms form in April, but it has happened over the years. The most recent named storm to form in April was Tropical Storm Arlene, which, if you guys remember, that was not fun. No tropical systems have ever been documented in the Gulf of Mexico during April. Interestingly enough, the first name on the list that will be used to identify is Arlene, if it's in 2023. So if there is one thing, so Dex, this will be the first time if it happens, right? This will be the first time it happens in the Gulf Stream in this time period?
No. It happened before, named Arlene, but it's rare. Like nobody thinks about hurricane season right now. It's not something that happens in April, and it's even very rare to even happen in May. It happens more in the summertime and goes into the fall. So this is seeing something like this happen a lot sooner is certainly questionable in the sense that we keep seeing and we keep reporting about all these changes that are going on with how different types of weather that we used to be comfortable with or used to expect are now different and changing quite a bit. Whether it's the tornado alley shifting over or the strength of the tornadoes now being much more. The crazy weather we had in California that, covered the mountains with more snow than they've ever seen before. And then all the lakes were empty and now they're all full. It's kind of crazy and wacky when you look at what's happened in just the last year.
So, Dex, am I reading this wrong? So I get that they've had an Arlene before, but it says, however, no tropical systems have ever been documented in the Gulf of Mexico during April. So I'm sorry, you're right. It's rare to have a tropical storm in April, let alone there's never been one in the Gulf of Mexico. But the last one that was early in April was also called Arlene, and the next one that will be named will be Arlene. How do they do the systems? How do they name these? They go through a list of A through Z or something? I forgot how they do that. They have an
A through Z list every year that they put out, and I don't know what the selection process is, but they publish it, every year what the storm names are.
Huh. Well, that's interesting to know. And then main thing though is I don't really debate. In my life, I have seen. Sorry, gosh, I feel like I sucked in a bug there. In my life, I've seen so many weird weather changes, and people debate whether this is caused by humans, caused by this, caused by that. I think it's less of that's a huge debate, but I do believe it is changing. I do believe that I'm seeing things that I've never seen before, and I don't think people in the last couple 100 years have seen. There are events that have happened, before records were being kept, but there's all of these weird changes happening, and I guess more of the debate is over like if we are doing it or if it's natural, but less of the debate is it happening? Most people do accept that there are just freaky things happening left and right. And then some, and I believe a big chunk of people here believe that this is biblical, that this is signs of the times. Like there's going to be all sorts of storms and things that are going to pop up out of nowhere. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your opinion. Thank you, Kelly Z3CD. Thank you again for the super thanks. Usual Sunspot 3018 says thanks. Well, thank you. Jimmy Wright 7167. Thank you for the super thanks on the last show. And then VB Lisa 843. Enjoy the weekend and everyone feel better. Bless the Foogle fam. Well, thank you. And VB Lisa, nice to see you. And thank you for watching the replay. Cognitable, Kimbria, Espiritu, Digital Mouse, thank you for being here. And Jammer, thank you for gifting out badges to people. Appreciate that. And then thank you everybody over on DLive for donating during the Easter egg donation hunt or the donation event. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. I believe there's a contest. I am definitely rooting for Cab 7 though. I hope that he wins #1 spot and gets that award. So if you haven't checked out Cab 7, make sure to go check him out on DLive. He's a really, really nice guy. He streams all the time. And whoever gets the most donations, I think from the 6th to the 12th, gets an award. So if you guys can, make sure to go check out Cab 7. Easily found on DLive. He's always on one of the main pages, and he's in the chatting category. But very, very nice guy, and he does, and he'll probably give that award away, whatever he wins. So thank you guys over on DLive. And then Elon Musk's new satellites are, quote, falling out of the sky in headache for SpaceX. It says that Elon Musk's brand new Starlink satellites are already falling out of the sky in what could prove to be an expensive headache for SpaceX. Last month, SpaceX launched 21 of its next-generation Starlink satellites into orbit in order to upgrade connectivity to its powerful satellite broadband service. However, according to astrophysicist Jonathan McDowell, one of the new Starlink satellites fell out of the sky and re-entered Earth's atmosphere earlier this week. It said that Mr. McDowell, who tracks SpaceX's satellite activity, also claimed that there are currently at least 14 actively on their way down. That sounds like an attack. Sorry, that doesn't sound like they're just screwing up. That sounds like somebody is knocking down the satellites. I mean, Russia did say that like they were pissed off at Elon for helping UKR with their satellite information to attack Russia. Dex, did you question that when you saw this? Like, it just makes me think, like, is this because they're screwing up? They say they have kind of a reason here, but I don't know.
I was thinking space junk. I mean, you know, we've been covering that so much lately. I'm wondering if they're getting taken out by small debris. But something's going on, right? Like they've had one actually re-enter and presumably burn up. But yeah, 14 more on the way. That's kind of crazy.
That's like alarms are about, or sirens are about to go off. Like 15 of these things coming down at once. Like that doesn't make sense unless there was a huge error in the 21. Unless these are like that 21 that were launched, and they all had the same technological error or something. That would make sense, but this is odd. What do you guys think? Going over to the chat. So just to remind you, if you were just distracted chatting or talking with friends, they just said that 14 may be on their way down. One Starlink satellite has already come down, and now 14 more may be heading down to Earth's atmosphere out of space. Does that sound like something fishy is going on? Or did something break up in space? Space debris, space trash is spinning around. We've also had these recent events in California where they had 6 or 7, objects come down, and they said it was space trash. What do you guys think it is? And remember, Space Force, it says, Dawn's also says, is there a Space Force war? Remember, we have a Space Force now. This is something that was made during T-Man's office. And it was like, people laughed at it because it was our last president, but at the same time, it's not gone. It's not like it disappeared. Everything else he did was undone on like the first day, but that wasn't. So obviously there was something. What happened in the meeting where they went in, where they told the president, like, hey, we need a new branch and it's going to be called Space Force? Like, what happened there? And then Space Force commanders, the highest ranking officials, have already said publicly that there is a war above us. Is that Ganda? The comments that I heard, and the people, if you tracked their career, shortly after they said that, 2 of them actually had bad things happen to them. So I just thought that was interesting. As far as there was the Space Force commander that said that there is a war above us, I think it's possible that something may be going on up there. I mean, they wouldn't tell us, would they? They wouldn't want us to worry about all of that. How did the space junk get past the firmament in the first place? As Steven 1774. Monk me, space wars inevitable. Who owns a lot of space? It is legal to fight in space. Is inevitable. Who owns lots in space? Question mark. It is illegal to fight in space. Well, it's supposed to be peace, right? They have a peace agreement in space. But I think, didn't we cover something that was changing that? Strategy, ignorant populist, Diana Boss. Let's see here. A lot of sun events happening, Lisa, and we try to cover as many of those as possible. By the way, if you do want to follow all of the solar events, over on marfooglenews.com/friends, which is actually a really awesome creator. Go to Wages World right here and then subscribe. He covers all of the solar events. He is an amazing person. Go check him out. And American Argonaut, Hegelian dialectic. If you don't under that, you don't understand anything happening to you. It's everywhere. Huh. I don't know if I read that right, but there is a supernatural war going on, says Darren Schrader. I actually agree with that. Where to be muse, bro. I don't know if I read that either. Bad Chad, what is happening? Looks like Junk Force. I think that's going to stick, isn't it? What goes up must come down, says B Cats. Well, whatever is going on, it's definitely very odd. Arizona Raven says, wow, stepped outside and lots of air traffic, has been none. And it's tomorrow again. Let's see here. Robin H. and Debbie Pendleton. Garden Telepathy. That's an awesome name. And Chaz Nuttington says spiritual warfare. LW says my comments got glitched out. That was weird. Sometimes you exit out and go back in if you have issues. Yobi, thank you over on DLive. Anyone else getting bioelectrical energy field manipulation powers from the sun? Iron Boy Sensei. Are you like Meteor Man now? Is that what you're saying? That would be pretty cool. You should talk to Garden Telepathy. You guys could, Anyways. And Israel's north under attack by barrage of rockets from Lebanon. So we've seen the tit for tat back and forth. So Dex, we covered how they fired rockets from the Gaza, then they responded. Now this is like it's almost getting confusing. There's so many different back and forths now, and they seem to be getting worse.
Yeah, that's correct. So this is today. This happened this afternoon or Thursday afternoon, during the Passover holiday. So there was a single launch from a Lebanese territory, and then minutes later, there was another barrage from the northern border. The first one they took down with the Iron Dome, but then I guess they've had lots of other blasts in the area that they've been reporting from the residents. So, as we said, going into these overlap of these different religious holidays, that this is a time where it is typical to see an escalation, especially from those that want to escalate things. So that's kind of what we're seeing. We expect more of this. I don't want it to see it happen, but it's just sort of inevitable because this, it is the whole tit for tat. It's like, they went into a mosque, then they went, they start lobbing this over the wall, then they start firing this, they raid them, they do this. It's back and forth. And, it's going to keep doing that until somebody just stops or backs off. So this is a very contested time period because of the three holidays that are coming together. So, but yeah, be on the lookout. We're going to be watching it, and yeah, it may feel like we're saying the same thing we did yesterday, but it's not. It's actually new news. It's happening every day there right now.
Yeah, and it's only getting worse as this is a flashpoint for World War III. We follow it. We make sure to, keep you guys up to date on it. Unfortunately, it's not going well there. Israel also says that they will take out Iran's nuclear facilities, whether they have our help or not. That was one of the last huge kind of statements from them. So I hope that does not happen. Let's see here. Thank you over on DLive. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Chance, for the lemons and for modding. Thank you. Cognitables, Kim Cimbria, and of course, Laura Griffith. Thank you. And Yobi, welcome. Hello from Tennessee. Too Bad One says, I'll see Beer Juice and raise it. Hey, thank you, Beer Juice and Too Bad. Appreciate you guys. And what was that? So maybe you guys can help me, and maybe you guys can research, because I have a debate with one of my mods. And I might actually be wrong. So you guys can correct me, but I don't want you to correct me based on the newer stuff that's out there. So I said, why though, earlier. And she said, why though? Basically said that it was redundant, that it's redundant talking, that it's an extra word. Because if you just say why, it's why. But why though is like extra words that are not needed. And also there was a meme through like 2017 and through 2019 that said why, like the letter Y and THO, which was shorthand. You know how all these kids now have text shortened everything for text, like sus and shipping, and relationship is now ship or shipping. All these crazy ones. Well, people made fun of it and made a meme. After that, I've said why though, like, if somebody punched him, if somebody punches your friend in the face, go, why though? I've always said that. And she said she's only heard that since 2019. She's in California though, so, But I have always believed it. And then after talking to a couple people about it, last time somebody called me out on that, I said, no, I think that during the meme stage, people brought that back up. This is a very stupid debate, okay? But you guys need to help me figure out if it is grammatically correct, or if it existed before 2017, okay? The person I talked to said that it was used in Shakespeare, but Shakespeare isn't really, common English anymore. And in fact, I don't even think the dictionary, they judge it beyond Shakespearean ages. So why though? Why though? Have you ever said that? Is it completely incorrect? Is it bad? And again, I'm sure Ilea will love it if everybody proves me wrong. But if it has been used beyond just the meme and when that started, I'd love to hear it. Have you guys said that? Why though? Anyways, the stupidest debate, and I'm giving you guys a chance to prove Ilea right. All right, and then before we move on, make sure if you haven't already, go to marfooglenews.com/prep and make sure to go check out their 3-month plan because it is now $200 off. It is the largest discount ever. This is freeze-dried 25-year shelf life food that you can put anywhere and store. Again, this is something that in a rainy day or a storm or an SHTF situation is amazing to have. You just add water back in and you have most of the flavor from when it was originally packed. That's the awesome thing. After over 2 decades, you can add water and essentially it tastes like the day that it was packed. This is a really great thing to have because obviously it can last that long. Go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. You will get a 3-month supply for $200 off. There are different sales all the time on the smaller packages as well, so make sure to go check those out. You can get a 72-hour kit. You can get a week. You can get a month. You can get all different ones if you want to just do a little bit at a time. They also have other kits and other things as far as gadgets, battery banks, radios, all sorts of awesome stuff. So make sure to click the tab at the top to see the other items. But the food is definitely the best because it is one of the most affordable options to get a bulk amount of food all at the same time. So go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. Not only will you get a huge discount, but you'll be helping our channel at the same time. JMax says, why though is a presentation of an expectation of further explanation? I like that. I like that answer. Maybe it's regional, says Kari. I don't know, but I'm probably wrong. I have asked people about it too, though. People have called me out and said, why though? But that was all around the meme. I'll show you the meme later. It's pretty horrible. But people shortened why though to the letter Y and THO, which is horribly wrong. And then don't even look up the Urban Dictionary's definition of why though. It uses really bad words. It actually calls me a very bad word. And then North Korean state media says U.S.-South Korea military drills push region to the brink of a nuclear war. North Korea state media is warning Thursday that recent U.S.-South Korea military drills are pushing security situation in the region to the brink of a nuclear war. We have heard fiery remarks like this, as they call them, all the time from North Korea. What's weird to me, though, is Kim is less of the spotlight. It's more of like, if they do talk about Kim, it's a picture of him. It's just so weird, the stuff that comes out of that country. But the one thing I worry about is now they say they even have what the media and what these people are telling us, the people that are really running the earth, if they are just telling us some BS, they are purposely wanting us to know that they not only have the super EMP weapon now, but they also have a submersible that can cause a tsunami, a radioactive tsunami. And why are they telling us this, right? Why did that come out of there? Why did they have it? Well, Russia has that, and Russia gave them the super EMP. Would they have given them the submersible? Well, it seems like, yeah, that would be the way they get it. Are they going to be the puppet that ends up attacking the U.S., and then if we respond, we have to respond to them? If they feel like they're going to be taken out anyways, if they feel like these drills that are going on are just to take them out anyways, are they going to go out in a fiery fashion? Are they going to go out in a blaze, right? That's what some worry about. I've thought about that, that way of this a lot lately, especially after hearing some military members talk about North Korea and how it is actually looked at as one of the higher ranking risks. It says the fiery remarks come a day after the U.S. military flew nuclear-capable B-52 bombers over the Korean peninsula during joint exercises with South Korea. Aircraft carrier USS Nimitz also has participated in naval anti-submarine drills this week alongside U.S. I want to point out there was a comment by somebody. I and I don't remember their name, just a couple minutes ago on YouTube, that said that there were 4 sub-communications planes above them. If you can, let us know where. I don't think you put, where you are. What was this in the U.S.? And how did you know they were sub-communication ship? Did you go to Flight Radar? And if you did you get a screenshot of it? Send it to me over on Twitter at Marfoogle. It says the U.S. kicked off different largest ever joint military drills against the DPRK simultaneously, despite the latter's repeated grave warnings, pushing the security situation of the Korean Peninsula to the brink of nuclear war. It says the U.S.-led allied forces were busy with an anti-submarine warfare drill and a search and rescue drill in the waters around the Korean Peninsula to stoke an atmosphere of confrontation with the DPRK, continued the article. And this is, again, their news over there. And it says, attributed to Cho Hoo-won, who North Korea claims is an international security analyst. They're international security analysts. Basically, they're like, hey, can you look at this and tell me what you think? Okay. It's about somewhere else. You're an international security analyst. Dex, what do you think about this as far as they're making threats? People are just kind of burnt on North Korea threats, but it's kind of a freaky one.
You'd almost think that was like the same news again, right? But yeah, this is the back and forth that just keeps going there. But they're in a unique position. They're reliant heavily on their allies. They are starving. They are sanctioned. They don't necessarily have access to everything. So they're pretty much reliant on what they can get from Xi and Vlad. And I think at the same time, they're probably a puppet to some extent, or maybe to a large extent for them as well. And we may see something happen with them, and it's really something happening on a much bigger scale, but they're just being used for it. And that won't surprise me or shock me, which is why we have to continuously pay attention to what's going on there. It's sort of like you almost want to just ignore it because it's just that crazy Kim guy over there who just likes to always say these stupid things and nothing ever comes of it. But in reality, a lot does come from it. He has used more than words. He has tested nukes. He has launched fractional orbital bombardment systems. He does have satellites that go over the hotspot, right over point zero, if you want to call it that, for America, for EMPs. Every so many days it hits that spot that's in their orbit. They do it, and we don't know what's in that satellite that's sitting up there. So there's all sorts of potential here, so we can't really write it off as the crazy hermit guy. So yeah, we have to pay attention. We have to watch what's going on here. It could be a puppet. It could be something serious, or it could just be, a madman doing crazy things.
Could be, and I'm hoping that it's all just empty talk. And let's see here. Robin H., thank you for the super sticker. Debbie Pendleton, thanks, Marf, guest and mods, for keeping us all up to date on world events, keeping us all in my prayers for a good outcome. Debbie Pendleton, thank you. Fairies of Venus, actually one of the first ones out tonight. Thank you for the massive super chat. I appreciate that. I know, again, thank you. I know that was purposeful because you've done it before. So thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for supporting Independent. Always write something, though. Write a message of some sort. And then Ilea says, why, though? Let's see. Veronica Powers Mom of 9 says, so glad to see a live show. Been watching replays. Life got in the way. My mom passed away and my first grandbaby was born. Love my Foogle fam. Stephen McMahon says a strict grammarian might say that the why alone is correct, but I've heard why though all my life. Something like, but why? Yeah, well, that was saying that would be the correct one according to them. And then Stephen McMahon, the though not only softens the why, but begs a more specific response, is perfect Chicago-ese. Oh, so they say that in Chicago. I'm glad to hear that. And then New York Prepper did a vid on the 4 nuclear warplanes over the U.S. about 2 hours ago. So obviously then it's confirmed. I can almost guarantee you they have the flight radar then on New York Prepper's channel. So make sure to go check that out. I will have to go check that out after the show. In fact, Dex, if we can, maybe if we can get a screenshot of something like that or attach it to the website. So what are they doing, though? Why, though? That's what I want to know. Why, though? And then China launches patrols in the Taiwan Strait, orders inspections of ships as Taiwan says it will not comply. So they have already launched more ships, and it says that the Chinese government announced a 3-day series of patrols in the Taiwan Strait on Thursday, ordering that any ships in the area stop for inspection or even boarding. Taiwan's Maritime Authority rejected the order, filing a complaint with Chinese authorities, and has urged shipping companies to ignore such inspection orders and notify the Taiwanese Coast Guard immediately should it receive one. If the mainland side insists that taking on one-sided actions, it will create obstacles to normal exchanges between the two sides. We will be forced to take corresponding measures, Taiwanese authorities wrote in a statement. The areas impacted by China's inspections order would impact passenger and fishing vessels as well as commercial and shipping vessels. It said that House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Mike McCall was asked about China's threat to stop Taiwanese ships on Wednesday, saying that he was aware of Chinese naval forces surrounding the island. It says intimidation is what they do, McCall said during an event, and we're not going to be deterred by this intimidation if the PRC, Communist China, decides to start blocking the Taiwan Straits. That is an act of aggression, and I believe it's not sustainable or acceptable. Says, quote, I do know that there are 3 aircraft carriers surrounding the island right now, and that we know that they have certain plans. Whether they carry those out, I don't know. But I think that would be a very unfortunate event on the part of the Chinese Communist Party, he continued, adding that he could not confirm what the Chinese plans were. The Chinese escalation comes one day after Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen met with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in California. China had vowed to take, quote, strong measures if the two leaders went through with the meeting. It says, quote, we will take resolute measures to punish Taiwan independent separatist forces and their actions and resolutely safeguard our country's sovereignty and territorial integrity. It says China's Taiwan Affairs Office said in a statement Thursday morning. McCarthy and Tsai each gave carefully worded statements during their meeting at the Reagan Library in Southern California. The pair spoke highly of their relationship between, quote, the people of Taiwan and the U.S. The language seeks to avoid complications arising from the Taiwan Relations Act, which stipulates that Taiwan and the U.S. cannot have formal diplomatic relations. So it's kind of like, even though that they're doing it, they're still going by these stupid, weird things that have been going on since 1979. America's support for the people of Taiwan will remain resolute, unwavering, and bipartisan, McCarthy said in a statement. They're always super vague. They will not absolutely say it. Dex, don't you find it weird that they just won't straight up come out? And when they do straight up come out in support of Taiwan, they essentially then backtrack it, or they do something, undo it, or go with the one China policy.
I think that's why we're so confused, because it's just like it's always like they're just on a tightrope and they don't want to commit. They really don't commit. But like this whole notion of stopping these ships and requesting to board them, that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because if Taiwan is telling their ships to disobey that, what is Xi's orders going to be? Is it going to be, how are they going to deal with the disobedience, if you want to call it that, or the refusal to accept boarding of a ship and inspection of a ship? So will they take forceful action? And that's where we go back to that first story. I don't think that this is as big as what they could have done. That's why I'm not sure this is the forceful action, but it certainly plays a role directly against the shipping parts from Taiwan. So they'll feel it. I don't know how much others are going to feel it going through the strait there, but definitely I have a sneaking suspicion they're going to be looking for Taiwan ships.
Well, and as far as like blocking straits is a huge is a huge deal. Blocking any kind of shipping routes. I have to find my pop filter. I've been trying to like talk funny to not do my P's here. The thing is you guys know I jimmy rigged this thing, so it's just hanging. So Dex, if you could, can you cover the next thing I hear? Every time I say a P, I have to like, do like a dance around the mic. I don't know where the heck the thing went. Will you talk about the U.S. is pushing China to a red line, and companies that do business in the country need to come up with a plan B?
Certainly. So this is coming from a Yale economist. So this is an opinion piece, but it certainly makes a lot of sense when you look at everything that's been going on with the chips, the restrictions, the sanctions around them, not allowing certain technology, Huawei being restricted out of the U.S., et cetera. And now as potentially things escalate to a new level with Taiwan specifically, we're starting to see, like, one of the things that recently happened the other day was Xi said, hey, any mergers that are happening out there that have any effect on us or any of our companies that may be part of it, we're not going to respond right away. We're just going to take our time. So that sort of hurts the merger business, or any of these companies that may be in the midst of doing some sort of merger. If there's something related to China, they're backing off on it. So this is one form of pressure that they can put on us, not just mergers, but anything business related. And I guess this economist is saying, hey, anybody that's really entrenched or has a significant, work that happens in that country might want to start thinking about what their backup plan is. And a good example of that, Apple, another one, Tesla, right? Like, they make and sell products there, and it's a significant amount of the revenue. And if they got cut off tomorrow, that could harm those companies. It would harm them significantly. And we've seen some of those companies start to create their backup plans and do other things like move manufacturing to other countries or add manufacturing in other countries. But this is certainly one of those easy tactics that can be taken that is not the same as taking a military action. So if Xi wants to, all of a sudden mess with a lot of U.S. companies that have a lot of activity in his country, he can quickly do that. Now, he may have some of his own consequences he'll have to deal with, like lack of, tech in his space. And, if he wants to shut off iPhones, then there's a lot of people in China that actually like using iPhones, so they're going to be mad. So he's got to balance all of that. But it certainly is a knife he can wield. And it can have a major effect to our businesses and a major effect to our economics. So we'll have to see how it plays out. It's one of those more intricate parts of adversarial conflict, if you want to call it that.
It's a different version of the same thing. And then go ahead.
No, sorry, I was clearing my throat. Wasn't muted.
Oh, okay. And then UKR is preparing to strike back against Russia. Timing will be key. It says that has been the mantra of UKR's military for months, one echoed by senior U.S. and NATO officials since the winter. So much for the idea, but can it be executed? And if so, where, when, and with what? Even the Ukrainians themselves may not yet know as they study the 1,000-kilometer front line for Russian vulnerabilities, just as they did when suddenly launching the surprise September offensive in the northwest region of Kharkiv. But they are aware that it will be a crucial chapter in the conflict. Major General Krylo Budanov, head of Ukraine's defense intelligence, said in an interview last month that Russia's UKR fight will fight a decisive battle this spring, and that battle will be the final one before this war ends, which is kind of a big statement, especially coming from UKR's side. It says that suggests that the Ukrainians may take their time to maximize capabilities. Predictions are a fool's errand. There will be plenty of bluff and disinformation about intentions in the coming weeks, but preparations are well underway. Says the essential preconditions for a UKR counteroffensive include the completion of training and integration of new units, degrading the Russian rear, a resilient logistics chain, and a real-time intelligence. The intelligence picture will inform things like where they might be weaknesses in Russian defensive deployments, as well as locations of Russian HQ, logistics, and reserve force locations. So just curious, even though that Elon said that his satellites will not be used anymore for this or for, well, at least no. In fact, I believe didn't Elon only say for offensive purposes? And the big question was like, how were they going to stop them for using it for offensive only? Maybe they're taking these out because they're expecting an attack and they know that they're using Starlink to help. I don't know. That it just kind of brings me back to that other story about the satellites falling out of the sky. So they're essentially, we're getting more and more word of this attack that's going to go on and strike back and go on the offensive, which really nobody supported in the very first 6 months of this war. Now all of a sudden people do, which is kind of crazy. Dex, what do you think? Like, they're preparing all over the place, and now Finland is now part of NATO, and there's 810 extra miles on Russia's border. All sorts of things are changing really quickly.
The lip service being paid to this quote unquote offensive is getting thick and heavy in the last week or two. And I don't know what that means in the sense of like timing. But it's certainly in my mind that we're the media and the propaganda machine that is fulfilling the narrative from UKR is certainly pushing this heavily. And even if they're not pushing offensive directly, they're doing it indirectly, like bringing up old stories, like we talked about, putting the Pentair missile defense stuff in Moscow and putting it in Sochi at Putin's residence. That happened months ago, but they bring it back up because it completes this narrative of pushing across the border, of doing an offensive of significance. So, you know, if this is either going to be a giant nothing burger, or what we're hearing is, you know, the pretext of something that's actually going to be attempted. And I guess we'll have to see what really comes of that. But I can only imagine how things would change if there was a significant push, whether it be Crimea or just straight up the line towards, you know, Moscow or St. Petersburg, across that border for the purposes of, you know, offensively striking back. If that happens, I think that's going to change the game dramatically. But, you know, again, I think it's just the amount of rhetoric around it right now is just amping up. And you've got to look at that and say, okay, what does that really mean? Is there something really going to happen here? Why are they telling us this? And then what do we expect? You know, all of that new gear is going in. All of the U.S. equipment is going in. We've gone down the list. We've seen the train cars. We've seen the ports with the equipment. We've seen the equipment rolling in. We've seen jets going in from Poland. We've got, you know, every day there's something new rolling into UKR. So, you know, it's got to connect these pieces.
And I just wonder if there's going to be a huge, you know, big event when they finally do this push. Now they have, and by the way, we don't hear anything about the Patriot systems, and, you know, we barely see anything on that. Are the Patriots already in place, or are they still not in place? Do we know? Is there a way we can check? Because it seems like we've heard nothing about the Patriot defense systems. And then we have state actor involvement in Nord Stream pipeline attacks is main scenario, says Swedish investigator. Well, no duh. We'll talk about this in here in just a second. I do want to say thank you to Stephanie Munoz. Again, thank you. Kay Parker Frazier. Let's see here. Kay Parker Frazier. Hey, Adam, Dex, Mods, and Foogle family. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Over on D Live, we have usual Sunspot. Thank you. I appreciate that. Stoplight, been busy with work bugs, so only been able to listen. That's okay. Well, thank you for being here. Darth V, PSYOP to drag the world into World War III. Letterman Afghan, Seahart Think, Queen BTP, thank you for being here. So state actor involvement is kind of like, well, duh. Everybody has already figured out what happened here. I don't really have to tell you guys, what people think. Most folks are saying, since our president basically announced that we would do it, who may have done it, right? But now it says a state actor's involvement in the blast of the Nord Stream pipelines last year is the, quote, absolute main scenario through confirming identity will prove difficult, the Swedish prosecutor investigating the attack said on Thursday. In September of 2022, several unexplained underwater explosions ruptured the Nord Stream 1 and newly built Nord Stream 2 pipelines that link Russia and Germany across the Baltic Sea. It says that zones of Sweden and Denmark that both countries say that the explosions were deliberate, but have yet to determine who was responsible. Yeah, because they just can't figure it out. It says, we believe it will be rather difficult to determine who did this, prosecutor Mats Lundqvist told Reuters in a phone interview. It says that the people who did this probably have been aware that they would have to leave clues behind and probably took care so that the evidence would not point in one direction, but in several directions, he added. Basically saying that they may have purposely left some things. And Dex, didn't they find something with like Russian writing on it or something at the bottom of the ocean? Like, didn't they purposely put out like a bunch of stuff that they found, objects and like a detonator? Like, if it was a state act or a country, do you really believe they were going to leave evidence of their own country doing this? Do you think they didn't like think of anything, think of like consequences or think of, what possibly could happen? I mean, you're talking about when they do government operations or any military operation, thinks of every little thing down to a detail. If the CIA goes and takes somebody out, do you think that they leave purposely like a calling card that says, oh, CIA did this? Come on. I mean, that's stupid. But what they're saying is that they could have, if they did it, they would have probably left. So say just a hypothetical, say South Africa did it. Well, they would leave pieces of, Russian pieces down there, leave Swedish pieces down there, leave U.S. pieces down there. So it confuses everybody and it pushes everybody in a different direction. Most people figured out who this is, but it's just funny that they say makes it difficult to clearly point to one actor. Well, I guess job well done. Dex, isn't that kind of funny? Like, the more that comes out on this, the more it looks like. And by the way, this is a week after we covered that we claimed, or UK intelligence claimed, that 4 or 5 Russian ships were in that area right before it happened. You would think that they would think about that. Maybe they even knew that the Russian ships were in that area and purposely chose that time to do it. So then there would be some sort of motive or time frame that they could go, well, they were there.
That's correct. And that's exactly what I was thinking. So the only other thing that I would add is that we also covered that there was that mysterious object that they invited Russia to join them in retrieving. They think it was an antenna, but it could also be other things, or it could just be nothing. That was one I think we showed on the show. It's like a little 16-inch long cylinder looking type device, but it's covered in algae and growth.
Yeah, and the comments we made when we showed you that was how badly covered it was and how it looked like it's been down there for years. But some argued that, if it's under the sea, it doesn't take too long to get algae and all sorts of stuff covering it. And then Wagner Group founder, UKR forces not retreating from Bakhmut, Russian offensive out of the question. We'll go over this in just a second. I do want to remind you, if you haven't already, you can protect your cars, your trucks, your motorcycles, your RVs, even your ATVs, and of course your house, your generators, your ham radio. Anything that you want to protect, EMP Shield probably makes a device to protect it against EMP or CME. If they have a Carrington level event, or when we have another Carrington level event, if your car is protected, you can drive and bug out to where you need to bug out, or go home to get to your bug in. Marfooglenews.com/EMP. It's 100% American made. It's a veteran-owned business, and this is the same company that's worked with agencies like DHS, DOD, and now on the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. They're not going to come and protect you. They're not going to protect the civilians. They're going to protect themselves. Basically, we're on our own to try to protect our own stuff. So if you do want to do that, go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP for $50 off. Plus, of course, that is per device, and you will be supporting us at the same time. This is a great device. They now have the EMP Shield Micro, which don't forget about that one. It's about half the size. It is extremely small, so it can actually fit into a lot of devices that may not have been with the original size. This is the original. The Micro is about a third of the size of that and can fit in the palm of your hand. So that is really, really cool. They have that now. It takes about 10 minutes to put in your car, and you're protected. marfooglenews.com/EMP. And then the Wagner Group founder, UKR forces not retreating from Bakhmut. Russian offensive is out of the question. Wagner Group founder Yevgeny Prigozhin admitted on April 6th that UKR forces are not retreating from Bakhmut and said that a Russian offensive is out of question at the moment. It contradicted his own earlier statement that Russian forces had taken Bakhmut de jure. It should be clearly said that the enemy, UKR forces, is not going anywhere from Bakhmut. They have organized defense inside the city, first by railway, then in the area of high-rise buildings in the western district of the city. Prigozhin said that the comment shared by his press service on Telegram. According to Prigozhin, Russian forces are faced with three issues, namely a lack of properly organized command, weak flanks, and not enough ammunition. So he's, again, talking trash about the hand that feeds him, all right? The Kremlin-controlled mercenary group has been assisting Russia's military in trying to capture UKR's eastern city of Bakhmut for months as Moscow tries to consolidate its grip over the entirety of Donetsk Oblast. Prigozhin claimed on April 2nd that his forces had captured the city administration building in Donetsk Oblast, Bakhmut, raising the Russian flag there. The head of Russia's state-backed private mercenary group added that Bakhmut is de jure taken and that UKR forces were concentrated in the western area of the city. It says the UKR military promptly denied his claims, saying that the building had long been destroyed by shelling. So basically saying they don't have a headquarters there, that doesn't exist. Don't know which part of this is Ganda, but what we do know is the Wagner Group has been making waves, even for Russia. We just showed you that they are talking about, getting together another private military that's more controllable. So it's kind of a little bit of an update or kind of a side update to that story. And then Putin admits that armed forces of UKR cause losses of Russian army. Dex, do you want to talk? He kind of admitted that they are losing people, which is expected.
Yeah, kind of interesting that we've got these back-to-back statements, one from the Wagner Group acknowledging something, and then here we have Putin making another acknowledgement saying that the forces have pushed him back and that they have not been able to, they have had losses due to that. So that's a statement you don't normally hear from him. And that's why it makes a headline. It's not much in the way of a headline, but it is, something that we don't normally hear. And we all know that, everybody wants to Gandize their side of the story. They want to not put out their dirty laundry and make everything look rosy from their point of view. So, to some extent, this is accepted that he would not have normally said these types of things, but it's also kind of rare that he did.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty common sense that they're losing people. I think it would be even crazier if he said that they're not losing people. And NATO just got hundreds of tanks, 62 fighter jets, and a whole lot of artillery after Finland joined the military alliance. It says Finland is now a member of NATO, giving the alliance a new military partner that has hundreds of tanks and jets and a history of fighting Russia. Finland officially became a member of the military alliance on Tuesday, strongly motivated by Russia's invasion of UKR. The move more than doubled Russia's direct border with NATO countries, which is so crazy to think about, that the entire fight in the first place, from their point of view, they said was new countries joining NATO. NATO's border around them has now doubled. It says this proximity and Finland's own history of fighting Russia has been a big factor in how Finland has developed its military and in its size of the arsenal that now brings the alliance. That arsenal includes around 650 tanks, and it said that the International Institute of Strategic Studies said in the latest assessment that Finland has at least 800 armored vehicles, including 200 tanks. It also has 107 combat-capable jets, according to the latest assessment by the IISS, including 62 fighter jets. Finland claims to have what it calls Western Europe's strongest artillery, made up of around 1,500 weapons that include 700 howitzers and cannons, 700 mortars, and around 100 rocket launchers, according to Reuters. It said that the country has dozens of training aircraft and surveillance radars, at least 650 anti-aircraft missiles, and an undisclosed number of drones, anti-aircraft cannon and tanks, multiple types of vessels for its navy, and lots of transport vehicles. So NATO just got a little bit stronger with a whole lot more border on Russia's country. So there was a reason why Finland and Sweden were neutral for all these years. They did not want to be a part of all of the drama. Now, through whatever op that this thing is, they are now fully in NATO, and it's pretty crazy because we waited months for this to happen, and now it is now happening. This has to be the trigger point, in my opinion. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then China catching up with the U.S. on AI may nationalize development, Harvard report warns. Dex, do you want to go over this and why this is kind of freaky?
So this is exactly what a lot of the actions we have taken, the U.S. has taken to stymie their ability to advance some of the technology. This is exactly what they were trying to prevent. And this report is coming out saying that they are still catching up with us, even though we've tried to, by reducing chips and other things like that they may need. Their ability to continue forward with advanced AI technology is progressing, and they haven't caught up with us per se, at least based on this report, but it's not unfathomable to think that they're not knocking on our door. They're right there on the edge, so to speak. They did have some bad publicity with their version of a chat GPT that they tried to launch. Not that is the ultimate, because we know the AI that militaries use has been around for a long time. This is not anything new. I mean, for example, F-22s can fly themselves. I mean, like that's been around for a long time. But what they're advancing with technology there, with the autonomous equipment that they have invested heavily in, not just drones, but also autonomous ships that have drones on them, and everything else that goes with that, as well as converting old equipment that they don't even use anymore and turning them into one-way mission drones. All of that is part of the tech investment that they have been making, and been making significantly off of the backs of us for many years. But now, as we try to cut them off, they're probably at a point where we're not going to do much damage. They're going to keep producing. They're going to keep evolving. They have a large tech sector. They have a large investment in that space. And we've certainly fed them quite a bit over the last few decades to help build and improve that. So I think that's pretty much what the gist of this is. But it's also something that is very important to pay attention to. We talk about controlling AI and the bad things that can happen to AI, and it is not unfathomable to think that somebody like an adversary of ours, or another country, or even ourselves, could be the one that lets AI loose in a way that is detrimental to the humans here on Earth.
One thing we didn't talk about the other day when we were having this big discussion about AI, and it's been recommended that they stop and they take a pause. Elon Musk and all these people signed a letter saying that anything beyond ChatGPT should be paused because we don't have oversight and it's very scary. But the one thing that we didn't talk about is how scary this is, that even if we took a pause, do you think China's going to pause their development? No. So that's the thing. It's almost like an arms race with AI. Even if we stop, do you think our adversaries are going to stop? And then all of a sudden, they're already ahead in AI and autonomous technology. They keep going. It's like we're being forced to evolve our people because somebody came up with this in the first place. AI will change our world overnight. I mean, it's already changing overnight, but it's going to change so drastically you will not recognize the world in 10 years from now. That's how freaky this AI is. It is a huge deal. And many are just not even paying attention to this. They're swiping through and not figuring it out. Things are all of a sudden going to change and a rug is going to be ripped out from under us. I think it's a horrible thing. And what sucks is it is part of evolution. We can't just stop evolving. We can't just stop developing technology. But AI, in a way, we could. I mean, like, but that's the thing. If we stop, somebody else will keep going. It's a scary thought. If you guys haven't already, if you don't have a backup power supply, go over to marfooglenews.com/energy. You can get the Flex 1500, which is a modular, expandable solar generator that can actually be expanded up to 96 batteries. It can be modded. The entire original purpose of it can be modded and changed. With the all-new UPS rapid charger, it can actually be changed into an uninterrupted power supply that you can plug things into. It is an awesome, awesome thing, so make sure to go check it out. marfooglenews.com/energy. This is one of the best made out there. It is the whole point why you would go with an Energy over other brands is that this is going to be reliable and it's going to run even in an SHTF situation. The great thing about solar is obviously it gets its power from the sun, and you have unlimited power as long as that sun comes up. They can be used in overcast weather. Again, I see a lot of people that say, oh, I live here or I live here, so I don't get a lot of sun. That doesn't matter. You still get power. You just get a little bit less. Make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/energy. Go check it out. They're also silent, and they don't take gas, which at gas prices right now and possibly in the next 10, 15 years, who knows how solar generator or regular generators are going to fare at all. marfooglenews.com/energy, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Not only will that give us credit, it will give you a credit and a special discount and help our channel at the same time. Thank you guys, and much appreciated in advance. We don't have a multi-channel network. We are on our own. We are covering controversial subjects, so we appreciate your guys' help going uphill against all of the stuff against us. And then this is what would happen if scientists found an asteroid heading to Earth, which you guys know this is right up my alley. Scientists have explained what would happen if an asteroid was on collision course with Earth to emphasize the need for planetary defense. The hypothetical asteroid scenario illustrates how an asteroid threat might evolve over several years and the potential devastation such a strike would cause. The team, led by the manager of NASA's Near Earth Object Program, or NEO, Office Paul Chodas, presented the exercise at the 8th Planetary Defense Conference in Vienna, Austria on Monday, April 4th. If you remember, I've actually covered this planetary defense conference every year for 5 years, and they've always had some sort of crazy hypothetical scenario that's come out of it, including some that have created memes all over the internet. I forget what it was in 2020, but it was a wild one. The hypothetical situation laid out by Chodas begins on January 10th, 2023, with the discovery of a new asteroid that receives the name 2023 PDC. The object is initially designated for a potentially hazardous asteroid, or a PHA, which NASA defines as any asteroid that intersects Earth's orbit at the distance of the planet around 4.6 million miles. And it says, unless of a magnitude of 22.0 when discovered, which is only a little brighter than the faintest stars visible to Hubble Space Telescope. The impact probability of 2023 PDC is initially just 1 in 110,000. It says, but Chodas explained that this steadily increases as the asteroid tracking facilities on Earth continue following the rock, better constraining the orbit around the sun. The scenario becomes serious on April 3rd, 2023, at a point designated Epoch 1, which I thought that was kind of interesting they used that, by Chodas. Today is Epoch 1. The impact probability has now reached 1%. Chodas said the potential impact is 13 years from now, so it's not imminent, but we can already predict the date on which impact is possible. The potential impact date is calculated as October 22nd, 2036. And despite this decade-plus preparation time, the NEO program manager explains that important decisions have to be made now. It said, but there are still several uncertain aspects, some of which are characteristics of 2023 PDC asteroid itself, that will key to be how humanity deals with the threat. This goes further. So the crazy part is that even if it was 13, 14 years out, we would need to start changing things now, which I think is kind of funny because we're already changing things. And they do these exercises, and I just wonder, because they've already done an asteroid exercise in New York. In fact, they did a simulation where they had to evacuate New York because of an asteroid hit. And they failed miserably. They've been doing this the last couple of years. They've made the Hammer, hypervelocity asteroid and mitigation emergency ship. Basically, it's a nuke on a rocket. They have made DART, the double asteroid redirection test. I think that's what it is. And then they have Hayabusa, Hayabusa 2. They had the OSIRIS-REx and the coming OSIRIS-APEX when it comes back to go on to Apophis. And it's like, what the heck is going on here? It then goes in and it says when you have a huge object, even as large as 2 kilometers, and there's a very, very small chance of that, nuclear is really a primary method on the table. So they're talking about like how they would do it. That means a large asteroid heading for Earth, a kinetic impactor like demonstrated by NASA's double asteroid redirection test recently, wouldn't be a diversion option. It's talking about how DART, which was successful, at least they say it was, it wouldn't even be an option. So they're looking at these new options, and I just wonder, and I have wondered, do they know something down the road, and would they tell us? Dex, and by the way, what's funny is they're pointing out, like, they probably wouldn't tell us until last second, right?
Yeah, I can't imagine they would. Maybe a scientist would try to release this, but it would get covered up pretty quickly. Especially if they knew an impact date, they would want to try to use that time for mitigation, and that's pretty much what they're going through here. Like, they've got to measure it up. They have to determine, what size it is. That way, they can determine if DART would work. Which, in the case the scenario they were talking about, it was too large for DART, so nuclear was the option. But then they got to figure out how to actually do that. Like, how, maybe part of the scenario is, do they do a launch to go inspect it? They talk about the fact that when it's going across the sun, they may not be able to see it, and based on the type of material it's made out of, it may reflect differently, and it may cause them, because the way they measure is based on light reflection, and if the reflective material properties of that object are different, it can actually give them a false reading of what they think it is. They may think it's big, or they may think it's small, when in reality it's the opposite, based on the amount of reflective light. So there's lots of interesting things. This is a very detailed article. So if you're ever interested in understanding exactly what they claim they will go through in this process, from the first identification, to the process of measuring it, to the process of tracking it, to the process of potentially visiting it if they needed to, and what type of mitigation would go in if time even allowed for it. That's the scenario, and it's creepy in many ways. It's also a little bit interesting just to see how the scientific community has outlined how this process currently works. And again, I would agree. I don't think if this is actually happening, we would be told much in the way of anything, especially in the early days.
And it even says impacts over land cause the most population damage, with averages between 10,000 and 10 million people, depending on the location. If something like this hit the U.S., something like that, if one of the kind of scenarios, even a smaller one, hits in the middle of the U.S., we're doomed. Which, people say, oh, fear this. This is one of the most, non-crazy things. We have these things come in all the time. So I having a bigger one hit, everybody thinks, oh, they got it. They've tracked all these things. Why are they making DART? Why are they making Apex? Why are they doing all of these if they have it handled? Look at how they handled Hurricane Katrina. Do you think if they found out in 14 days a huge asteroid was going to hit from the sun's direction, do you think that they would be able to handle this? Because everybody thinks, oh, we've got a department for everything. They've got a plan for everything. They've got this all worked out. They had a plan for Hurricane Katrina. They had a plan for if the levees broke. Look at how bad they did. They didn't get water to the Superdome for 4 days. I mean, it's a great example because it's true. They failed on so many things. There's human error. And if we're talking about the recent past, there's been a ton of asteroids that we discovered right before they either hit and said they weren't going to hit, or we found out after they had already passed. The real deadly ones would come from the sun's direction because we have no solid way to see them before they come. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's see here. Fairies of Venus says, yeah, I hate to say it, doesn't look good. No, it does not. And that was actually to a prior, basically the things with going on with Taiwan, I believe is when you said that. And then over on DLive, thank you everybody over there. Let's see here. Let's see. Cimbria, Cognitable, Espiritu, Digital Mouse, thank you everybody. Dova Ghoul, thank you for gifting out, thank you Jammer, thank you for gifting a badge to Dova Ghoul for the glory of Christ. Thank you for the lemon. Fractured Fusion, thank you so much. I appreciate your support over there. And everybody, make sure to also go check out Cab 7. There is an event over on DLive right now, which is an Easter kind of donation event. And when you donate lemons to a creator, whoever gets the most will get an award. I would highly recommend going over to Cab 7, and if you have lemons, go donate them to him so he can get that number one spot. If he gets number one, he would win more. And again, if you know Cab 7, he will end up then gifting it out to the community. So I think he is the best person to win that. I think he is actually number 2 right now. I think we're number 4. You should get him to number 1. Let's see here. Cab 7 is his name, and he's if you're he's an older guy. He just talks about regular subjects. He's just really cool. It's always a positive and peaceful time over there. That's what I like about him. All right. And Jimmy Wright, thank you. Usual Sunspots and everyone else over there watching the replay. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Celtic Warrior, hey, nice to see you here. J Max, Stephanie Munoz, Anthony Williams. Whenever the government mentions UFO or some scandal, think diversion. Look what else is happening. You are completely correct. All right, and then Dex, let's go over the web only. We've got a lot of really crazy stuff going on here. And actually, one story I would like to talk about, this kind of relates to what we were talking about last night. The bosses want hard workers, so they're hiring older people. And I just thought of, last night we were talking, like, somebody said that they used the AI and ChatGPT to redo their resume, and now all of a sudden it's getting all these hits because it's perfect, right? But I said in a short amount of time, everybody is going to have a perfect resume. So a regular resume or one with spelling errors might actually win over the other ones because they go, this guy didn't use AI to do his resume. And I thought about it. I was like, I would be the one who hires the person who didn't use ChatGPT. Like, I'm old school. But you know why they're hiring old people? Is because old people have work ethic. I don't know if you've been to a fast food restaurant with some of the young kids that are working now, but I mean, I've had kids hand me my food and go, hey, can I please take my break? Like, this isn't the 4th customer I've dealt with today. It's like, there's literally the worst work ethic in this generation. That's my opinion. Again, you can debate me on that, but it's kind of hard if you've ever been around this generation working. They're on their phones at the counter while they're checking you out. Hostesses on their phone before you go into a restaurant. I mean, it's horrendous, I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Have you had a bad experience with this generation going to a restaurant, anywhere? Let me know down below. Dex, do you want to go over the rest? Lots of crazy stuff.
Yeah, there certainly is. Head over to marfugglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or on YouTube or Rumble, just open up the description and click on the show notes link. It'll take you right here. So all of the news at the top is what we've just covered as part of the show. And then we get this yellow bar. It's overflow. It's everything else. It's the rest of the story. Lots of things happening there. In addition to the good news for us older people, if we're the bosses are wanting to hire us. But there's some updates on the unfortunate incident with Bob Lee, again, the founder of Cash App, one of the tech CEOs he was there's updates as to what happened with him. It's kind of a pretty sad story, but it's a pretty sad state of affairs in San Francisco. So that's there. Some stuff going on in Baltimore with the church there as well. That's interesting. The judges of the Supreme Court are in the news. That's being covered. Of course, you got a little bit of the political stuff going on. Thankfully, it's kind of died down a somewhat, not as much. It'll still be there, but hopefully things will calm for a little bit. There's definitely some stuff going on with being talked about around Tesla, around some of the other tech companies like Apple having secret Bitcoin manifestos hidden in their computers. I wouldn't say secret, but they're there and you can find them. And why they're there, probably some engineer stuck it there as an Easter egg, but who knows? If you want to learn more about it, it's there. All of that. We also have updates with what's going on in UKR. We got the rest of those stories. There's plenty of little things going on, like what's happening in Crimea, what happened with in Putin and his train, and what they talk about, how he travels, all of that, as well as much more. And in LA, they are in the metro station. They're blasting classical music as a way of driving out the homeless people. That's an interesting thing as well that's going on. So all of that and a lot more, didn't cover it all. So if you want to see the rest of it, get the rest of the story, go to marfugglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up that show notes link down in the description. It takes you right here. You don't even have to leave the app you're in.
Well, thank you, Dex, and thank you for your service tonight. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And everybody else that visited tonight and stopped by, thank you guys so much. Thank you for everybody that did the super thanks. Thank you for everybody over on DLive that took part of the Easter donation thing. Thank you so much. And Stephen McMahon, thank you. And, of course, Fairies of Venus, thank you. Kay Parker Frazier, thank you so much. Robin H., I don't know if I did get you. I think I missed at least one. Yeah, I think I missed you, Robin. Thank you so much for the super chat. And much love to everybody here. Fairies of Venus definitely took the top spot tonight. Thank you so much for being the top supporter. Thank you supporting Independent here. And thank you for supporting the Marfoogle channel. I appreciate you. All right, and to the mods, thank you guys. And make sure to thank your mods right now by going over to marfugglenews.com/friends. Go check out Aaliyah. She has been rocking it down there. Make sure to go over and thank her by subscribing. She's got a great channel over there. She's very, very funny. One of the funniest women I know. Most feisty as well. And she is the one who questions, why though? So I think she might have won that battle, but we will see again. Or I was trying to say something epic like we will meet again. Yeah. I need like a I don't know, like you guys help me. Help me with a superhero saying or something, like a tagline as I kick somebody or something like, you just got served. You got marfed. You've been foogled. And yeah, let's just not. Now it is time for the shoutro. It's time for the outro. It's not a shout out. It's not a shoutro. It's not a shout out. It's not an outro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.
Marfoogle News, where are you? Only news I use. Marfoogle News, where are you? Only news I use. Marfoogle News. Apocalypse wrongs, looking outside of my window, seeing a crescendo. I'm not going out there where apocalypse wrongs.
right, let's make a fresh one for Fairies of Venus.
Thank you.
Let's see.
Fairies of Venus, 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 fairies of fairies of fairies.